Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is a slightly delayed Speedplay Netherlands number 27. We left off still in the middle of our war against the Ottoman Empire. We've pulled troops to the north to declare war against Crimea. At this point, the goal is essentially just to clean up our remaining borders in Europe, mainly just through Eastern Europe and against the Ottomans. We've already defeated most of the Ottoman armies. As you see, Crimea was not an issue at all. We've just steamrolled their armies. In Anatolia, we're just going ahead and taking over all of the provinces behind the fort line we're occupying. We transfer the occupations of Crimea to our Eastern European client state. The idea is we're just going to give that all over to them. Meanwhile, we continue to just press forward against the Ottomans, more or less just hoping that they'll give up and give us their lands, as they really can't fight. We annex Crimea and go ahead and start selecting our war goals. We're going to try to take all of the major holy cities, as well as everything in Europe outside of Greece, and really just see what we can get. The Ottomans still won't accept peace, however, which means we're going to just keep occupying them until they break apart, if need be. Now, we don't really have any admin points, so the more lands we're able to give to our clients, the better, although ultimately we are going to have to take some areas for direct control. Mainly, we're going to get a Suez Canal zone that moves all the way up to Jerusalem. I am tempted in a way by the thought of getting part of Egypt, at least Alexandria, as it's a very nice area for trade. Ultimately, though, we're probably going to avoid that, but it does seem like it would be nice, and the war score does seem to have somehow dropped for our demands, so it may be possible to get more than the initial peace offer would indicate. At any rate, we do still have to keep mopping up the Ottomans, and that is basically just where we're at. We move our forces forward, hoping to avoid as many prolonged sieges as we're able to, although that is probably something we'll have to see a little bit more of. And once again, we've essentially just defeated the Ottomans. It's just a matter of time now. Ultimately, though, this should be the last major European, or, well, it's not entirely European, but it is a war partially in Europe. This should be the last European war that we fight. We're starting to pull our forces over towards East Africa from the New World, and once this war is done, there's really nothing else we need to concern ourselves with in Europe. We'll just focus on one last fight against the French, although they don't have an army, and take what lands we're able to. Now, we could get Constantinople and the area directly on the other side. We do go ahead and do that. That puts us a bit dangerously overextension, and you'll notice we have all these lands that we're just going to give to our client states. If we just give them to our client states, we don't get any bonuses, but by going through the special menu that was added in the recent patch, we lower their desire for liberty. So we do that until it gets them overextended, which isn't very long at all for our Eastern European state, but with the Balkan state, it's going quite a long way. In fact, we may even be able to give them everything through that little menu, which would be very nice. Now, I have difficulty deciding who should get this area, and I decided to give it just the modern borders, which do look a bit odd, but I kind of enjoy it, and it gives all of the Danube to the Balkan state. With that all said and done, we move our armies just back into our own lands. We're no longer overextended, which is fantastic news, and we're going to just declare war on the French as soon as possible. We do have to worry about the Osteuropean state, and we do have rebels in Ireland, which we need to take care of. Now, Osteuropa is overextended, so it's likely they'll face a series of rebellions. In fact, they are already facing a series of rebellions, but it might get worse. At any rate, that's the main issue right now. You'll notice they are in no way religiously unified, but Protestantism has gone very far everywhere but the New World. So we do go ahead and declare war on France, if you can really consider it a war, and just continue cleaning up the rebels in Osteuropa. We defeat our last rebellion in Ireland, and at this point, we are free to go really anywhere in the world. We take out a slew of loans just so we can develop the Suez Canal, and it's just a matter now of sieging out the one French capital, which is their one province with a fort, and it's already gone. So this is the shortest and most just amazing war with the French I think I've ever had in EU4. And once again, we are very low on admin points, just coring what we can when we're able to. We've also had a slight issue with estates just not having enough provinces, although that's easily handled. We see what we can take from the French without actually fighting them, and it looks as though we'll just be able to get their mainland and one island off in the Southeast Asian area. From there we go ahead and transfer 2 provinces over to our true French state. We are overextended beyond 100%, however I really like the borders where they're at, so we're just going to leave it there for now and deal with whatever comes. Our armies don't really have to worry about any foreign threats. Everywhere to the east or southeast of us has a truce until the end of the game, so it really doesn't matter. And Spain would have to go through the French state to get to us, and despite them being disloyal, they will defend their own territory. So it's not really any concern if they do that either. We do have a bit of a rebellion in Scotland, although that shouldn't be too much of an issue, and at this point we have to worry about where we're going to expand. Now, first of all, we will need to just deal with rebellions, and interestingly enough, California has declared an independence war against Spain. Ultimately, that kind of draws my attention towards the New World. We don't have enough admin power to even begin coring all of the territories we need to core, and we are facing a slew of rebellions, which is a bit of an issue, so we can't really take on that much of a major threat. Not that any really exist. However, what we may be able to do is ship our forces to the New World, where, as soon as we take more than 5 provinces in any region, it'll become a new colonial nation, or just add on to the colonial nations we already have. And a bonus is that our colonial nations have been very disloyal to us as of late. They haven't actually joined a massive rebellion against us, however, I'm still not entirely convinced that they won't. So if we pull our forces from the old world to the new, we'll be able to do a couple of things in just one fell swoop. We'll be able to clean up the new world, use our armies for something productive, and if our new world colonial nations do rebel against us, we'll have a large force in theater that we'll be able to use to suppress them. Really just a lot of good things altogether. We go ahead and just ship more and more of our armies over. Ideally, we'll just have overwhelming force. There is ultimately the worry of revolts at home, however, we do have around 120,000 men, plus another 40,000 which just arrived. So we have a good 170,000 men that we'll be able to use to just destroy Colombia, and they were allied to Brazil, so we declared the war on Brazil, as I plan to defeat Colombia first. Now this is a trick that really, it's an incredibly simple trick, but one that took me a surprisingly long time to learn in EU4, is to just declare the war against the country you want to deal with last, so you don't get any of the malices for staying too long at war. Unfortunately, Brazil had a massive army, which I really wasn't accounting for, and all of our forces are way over in Colombia. So we have to pull back our remaining force. We're going to just deal with the Colombians before engaging the Brazilians. It may not be the most practical of solutions, however, we do have a lot of land to trade for time, and there's only a couple of sieges we need to deal with, most of which are provinces without forts that are dealt with in about a month. So with that all said and done, we move our forces forward, and we're going to attempt to defeat the Brazilians in a pitched battle. Unfortunately, that was just a disaster. We do group our forces back together, and at this point that battle is just going to happen. We try to send reinforcements forward, it's not quick enough, we just start building our forces up. We defeat a Colombian army, which is very nice, move 100,000 men together into a single stack, and just rush the Brazilians. We win that battle, which is great news, and from there we're just going to be able to move through Colombia. There's an interesting peace deal glitch where it's not actually showing us which provinces are selected, and that is rather annoying. However, we are able to just select all of their provinces anyway by just sort of remembering which ones were selected and just double checking the peace deal screen. Not exactly an ideal solution, however, it does make do. We can make do with it. Now with all of this said and done, we're more or less just waiting as our occupation's complete, and being a little timid about the Brazilians. We do manage to go ahead and make peace. This gives us direct control over some areas of Dutch Brazil, as we don't actually have 5 provinces cored. The Brazilians attempt another attack, we do defeat them this time. And really, we're probably going to spend the rest of this campaign in the New World, just cleaning up our New World borders as best, or to the best of our ability. There are a few rebellions, one in Africa, that we have to deal with. Ultimately, though, we just don't have the admin power to expand direct control over any more regions. We've essentially taken everything that we'll be able to core, at least for the next year or so. Now, that will ultimately change, and we'll probably have a couple of years left where we'll be able to keep expanding. Although, ultimately, I kind of like the idea of, over these next few remaining years, just taking over the coastline of the Americas. That way, all of these countries that remain, and we do manage to take care of our rebellion over in West Africa, but if we take all the coastline of the Americas, then you could argue that all the countries that remain, one, they won't have very much trade power, and if hypothetically this was to be converted to Victoria too, they wouldn't be able to trade on the world market because they would only border like one other country, maybe two, and not have access to the sea. Now, that's just hypothetical. Ultimately, though, I think it's a nice goal for us to just establish the overriding superiority of the Dutch Empire moving on to this new era. We split our armies and just begin carpet sieging Brazil, and at this point they're essentially done. Their armies, once able to stack wipe our own, are now just severely outnumbered to the extent that I don't even have any large stacks defending our sieging forces as they move forward. They're just able to carpet their way through, and really we'll be able to make peace in just about a moment. Speaking of, we do have that same peace deal glitch, which is rather annoying still. We do manage to just take their entire coastline, as is the new plan, and just sort of look around for the best option. With that, Brazil is now completely landlocked. We still have to core a few more provinces to get a colonial nation here. However, with that said and done, we can move on to North America and probably Argentina. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're very nearly done. It's been a good run.